It's always a pleasure to have Senator Ron Wyden join us, and thanks for spending some time. Let's get right to the CHIPS Act. What an economic boon for Oregon that was, and I know you were spearheading trying to get those federal dollars in here. I think this is some of the best economic news that Oregon's had in the modern century.
Yes, it is a huge shot in the arm, and in particular, semiconductors, we essentially, in chips, we use them from the time we get up in the morning till the time we go to bed at night. And Intel, which of course is our flagship with respect to technology, historically has been about research and technology and innovation. Now, because of the $24 billion in investment tax credits that I got as chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, we're going to be all over manufacturing. There are going to be a lot of high-skill, high-wage jobs, and I'm just thrilled about it. I think it's probably the most important thing that I've done in my time in public service.
I mean, we're talking about thousands of jobs.
There's huge economic multiplier when you talk about the number of vendors, the number of construction jobs. And as I say, Intel has always been the leader in terms of technology. And then people would say, but what about manufacturing? In other words, the research is really good, but until you manufacture, you don't translate it into all those jobs on the ground. And now we're going to have those.
Well, it's tax season. Everyone's trying to get their tax in. But now we come up with the child tax credit. Where are we at on that right now? We hate to see it go away.
Well, what I want to do, we've got thousands and thousands of kids in Oregon who depend on it. And the reality is these are the families that are walking an economic tightrope. They're balancing the food bill against the fuel bill against the rent bill. And we got a big vote, the Republican chairman of the House committee and I, when it started in the House. But right now we're up against not just the election season, but there's a big leadership fight in the Republican Party to replace Mitch McConnell. We're pulling out all the stops. And not only is the child tax credit part of this package, but research and development credits, which are so important for Oregon's small businesses, are involved. And also on a major expansion of low-income housing, which is another big priority for Oregon.
You know, here's an issue that's maybe not on the top of minds of a lot of people, but we all love Oregon so much, especially Crater Lake. And the problems with the concessionaire, the people running the lodge and the disrepair and the problems that, and you've sort of been in the forefront on that since it's one of the most beautiful places in Oregon.
It's an Oregon treasure. And I heard from a whistleblower back in December that there were huge problems in terms of the health practices and the safety practices and employees and charges of sexual assault and the like. And I said, I am not going to, as Oregon senior senator, let this treasure be sacrificed. And I stepped in, I called the Park Service. I said, I need somebody out there quickly. My own staff investigated, and they said, it's even worse than the whistleblower said. We've now got the old contractor out. Aramark was their name. We've got an Explorer U.S. contractor who I think is going to do a much better job. I'm going to be watchdogging it every step of the way, because when you think about what Crater Lake means to Oregon, to the country, people all over the world want to come and enjoy Crater Lake. We're going to get that concession situation back on track.
You know, when we talk about Oregon, we often just center on Portland, you know, the Tri-County area, and sometimes rural Oregon's forgotten. And you always make it a point to get to the farthest rural places in Oregon. I think last night or a few days you were down in Klamath Falls listening to those issues. And, you know, when you're in rural Oregon, how do we, you know, I always say there's two Oregons. There's the urban Oregon, you know, and sometimes people forget there's some pretty big issues in rural Oregon that you're on the forefront of.
Well, first of all, what I always say is I'm from Portland. Sure wish I could have played for the Trailblazers, and Sean Lee would have said basket by Wyden or something like that. But I'm not a United States Senator from the state of Portland. I'm a United States Senator to represent every nook and cranny. So when I'm in Mitchell, you know, a small town in Wheeler, you know, it really sends a message that everybody counts, everybody's at the table. And you talk about agriculture, we do a lot of things well in this state. One of the things we do best is grow things, and that's rural Oregon.
Yeah, let me see, I wanted to make sure. Oh, I know what I want to talk about. So Locally, there's been a lot of, we've had some protests and something from post office workers. With some of the changes happening in the post office, they're afraid it's going to eliminate jobs and that it's actually going to be more inefficient, the changes that they're working on. I know you've been in the forefront on that.
I'm trying to stop this Postmaster General. His name is DeJoy. And sometimes you listen to him, what you kind of get the sense is he'd like to privatize things, which would be bad for service and bad for jobs. And he's always doing, Jeff, these reclassifications. And now he's got some bizarre kind of analysis going on where, in effect, mail going to rural areas, we heard from folks in Medford when I was there, was coming to Portland, and somehow it was supposed to come back. But I'm trying to block DeJoy because I think that this is a prescription for trouble, particularly for rural Oregon.
And some of those changes could mean loss of jobs for postal workers.
No question about it. I really do think, as you listen to him, that he really doesn't understand what communications, particularly in rural communities, is all about. And this is a double whammy. People would get less service and we'd lose jobs.
Okay, you've been around the block. I mean, I've known you when you were, fighting for the Gray Panthers, and you were first starting out. I think you and I go back that long ago. You have always maintained, no matter what's happened, especially lately in the Senate and the House, the partisanship that's going on, you have always maintained this level of bipartisanship. I know when I visited you in Washington, D.C., some of your best friends were Republicans that you were serving. You have always maintained that open line of communications. How important is that? What would you like people to understand about that?
It's gotten harder. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but if you want to come up with solutions that really work, you've got to have some common ground. Otherwise, the people who lost will just come back and try to unravel it. Now, we're in the political season. I heard a rumor there was an election coming up, but I mean, what we know is the best politics is good policy. So you look at our child tax credit, that's going to be good for families, that's going to be good for housing, that's going to be good for small business. It's common ground. And my partner in this is the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. He's a Republican from Missouri. He's very conservative, but he's interested in getting something done. He's been completely constructive. We got a big vote in the House. I'm going to pull out all the stops to get it done in the Senate.
Okay. Is there anything else we didn't cover? Is there anything else that you would like to?
I think we hit a...
Yeah, we hit them all.
We hit a lot of common ground.
Yeah, so we'll pull...
Hank, you want him to do anything else?
Hank, we'll pull some of that out in, for the 9 and the 10, 11. Anything, Jay?
Sure. If we can just get a good, strong, thanks very much, Senator.
Oh, sure.
To
Okay.
Sort of wrap up the...
Okay. Well, as always, Senator, it's always great when you stop by and talk things.
Thanks, Jeff. We'll do it again.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
All right.
A+. Thank you,
Okay.
guys. I appreciate that a lot.
We got
All
that.
right.
We got it.
Now, I do really mean that. Thank
Well.
you. Yeah. So, all right.
How long have you been in broadcast
Well,
here all told?
in broadcasting, like 46 years, but in Portland, 42 years.
Because you did election night with me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.